in. So the topic, as you see for today's session, is insightful marketing. And very often, as startups or new businesses, most of the startups, incubated companies, or ideas, not really companies, very initial stages. There's a lot of excitement that I see with the founders or the young students, young entrepreneurs. There's a lot of enthusiasm and passion for the idea that they're working on. And as the product takes shape and they take it to the customers, very often all that excitement that they have to create a product, and they are very, very sure that this product is going to be received very well in the market. The initial interaction with the customer and the initial experience in the market very often is not positive, and that results into a lot of heartbreaks, a lot of negativity, a lot of broken dreams. So the thing is, marketing then suddenly becomes an important thing, and there is a scrambling to understand how one can do marketing, what they did wrong, and all that. So my effort today would be to present to you or offer you an understanding of marketing in a very, very simple manner. Primarily because marketing is not complicated. It's a very simple thing. But in my experience, what I've seen is very often the simplest of the things, they become most difficult. And fortunately or unfortunately, people do understand it, but they're not able to actually handle it. Means when it comes to execution, that understanding of marketing does not translate into the actual doings, how they go about doing their business, how do they go about planning their product, launching it, pricing it, creating a channel for it. So all those things, they get kind of very confused, and the expected results, they do not ever materialize. Having said that, let me also say that from what I heard, initial conversations with Jaya and Kalyani, what inputs I received is that there is a mixed audience today. Some of you are working in or at the very initial stages, working on your ideas and trying to give it a shape. Whereas others are more mature startups who have kind of taken off and maybe are facing challenges in scaling up, or you are interacting with your consumers and are getting a feedback, and you're trying to either work around it, and I hope it is good feedback for some of you. So you are trying to see how you can take it to the next step, means scale it up, maybe come up with more options, maybe come up with more ideas for aligned products and services. So it could be a lot of things that you are doing. Now the challenge that I face as a person who's interacting with a mixed set of audience is that the requirement for the inputs that you need, each one of you, for your particular venture may be very, very different. Okay, so keeping that in mind, I'm discussing insightful marketing today, not for a specific business at a certain stage, but in general, how any business, whether it's starting up, whether it is already a well established company, and or they are at the stage where the initial experience in the market has been good and they're trying to scale up. So I will not look at any specific thing, but try to give you an understanding of marketing, which can be very, very useful in whatever you are doing and whatever stage you are. So the idea is to set the foundation of marketing and focus more on how you can be benefited by doing it in an insightful manner. So you might have heard of marketing, you may not have heard of insightful marketing. So let me first, talk about what is insightful marketing, and why is it important to do marketing in an insightful manner. So if we look at the two terms in front of you, they are essentially a combination of two words. One is insight and the other is marketing. Marketing and insight, when they come together, the success is pretty much inevitable. It's not inevitable. So if you do things right, if you gain an understanding of your the customer's needs or what the market requires, and you go about creating an offering which would serve a need in the market, then you're pretty much on the right path and the success should follow. Having said that, what is insight and what is marketing? So when this is going to be, I like to keep it a bit interactive. So I'd like to have some initial thoughts from the audience. If you could just simply chat, and drop in a few words or just a short sentence of what you understand about what is insight, what is marketing, that would be very helpful. So I'll give you a minute. Could have that. You can even use your mics if you want, and you can, just give your answers in instead of, writing in the chat box there. I'm okay with either. I don't see anything coming in.
Ma'am, this is Kalyani.
So, okay, maybe
we
this
have
is
a few things coming up in the chat box right now. Yeah.
You can read it out, Kalyani.
Yeah. So we have from Akash Anand, who said insight is learning from the things you've done in the past, and marketing is advertising your product. We have B-Box Prasad, who has written understanding the real target customer. We also have another input from Dhara saying that insight in this context is insight into marketplace, customer, and competition. We have another input that has come in from Sasindran. The last one, I'll say. This is saying insight is learning gained from a collection of facts.
Okay. So I think it's a pretty good attempt from everyone. And some of the answers, some of the responses are pretty close. But of course, we can always, improve on that. So when we talk about insight, insight in the dictionary is defined as, the capacity to gain a deep understanding, a more, comprehensive and accurate understanding of someone or something. So this someone or something could sometimes also mean the context, could sometimes mean your customer. So we'll look at, it could vary, but what is more important is that we're talking about a deep and accurate understanding. And this deep and accurate understanding gives you that sometimes, it gives you that honest understanding of someone or something before you, so that some, a click suddenly, or some, you feel that click going on in your mind, you say, oh, I understand this. There is a sudden aha moment that you get. Suddenly you grasp, why something was not working. Maybe you were struggling for some time, and suddenly you realize, oh, there was a very small thing and I didn't do it. Or you see an advertisement and you feel, oh, this advertisement doesn't make sense, but when you look at it closely, suddenly you understand it, and there is an aha moment. Oh, I understand what the person in the creative was trying to, what was the message and how they were putting it across to you. Now, Akash said that, marketing is about advertising your product and making it, communicating the product or service, whatever you are offering to the target market. That's generally the perception of marketing. Okay. So we'll talk about marketing, and I think that's where mostly the problem is. People understand marketing differently, and also they don't quite often have an insight into the context or the customer or to the challenge before them. So with insight set in place, and example of insight could be, if I gave you a simple observational exercise, an observational exercise is wherein you go into the field and you observe things as they are happening. So let us say I gave you a simple observational exercise, and that is to just observe school kids going to school in the morning and in the evening when they're coming out of the school, so as they are going and as they come out, when the bell rings and suddenly the doors are open, so kids rush out of the schools in the afternoon. You observe this, and I ask you, over a couple of days, and then I ask you, in one sentence, can you tell me what is the key thing, if somebody in the school is trying to make schools a better place and have students more engaged in the schools, what is the one thing that they can learn from here? What do you think is the feeling of students towards the school that needs to be improved upon? Do you think you'll get any input, any insight from this observational exercise? I think it would be better if, the participants could use the mic, because that way it would become more interactive. Do you think you'll observe anything? Is there any takeaway for you? Would there be some contrasting behaviors from the morning to the evening that you'll see in the students?
Yeah, participants, please feel free to join in. I don't think we have muted any mics from our end. So absolutely, please join in. And, if you have any comments to share, thoughts, please do.
Yeah, hi, this is Deepak from Ozone.
Hi, Deepak.
Hi, I'm sorry, Dr. Richa, I actually got this
Deepak,
just give
your
me a
voice is
brief
breaking a
about
bit.
what was the question.
No, it's a very simple observational exercise, I'm saying. I'm
I
just
just
trying
got
to take
disconnected.
this. No, I could hear you later on. Initially, there was a break in your voice, Deepak, but I could understand later.
I understand.
Can you hear me clearly?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay. So the question I'm asking, let me explain the purpose, is to help you understand what insight is through an example. This is just a dictionary meaning and it's easy to understand in that sense, but also how to get an insight. That's what I'm trying to do over here. So the exercise I asked you all to, think of is, let us say you were given an exercise to observe the behavior of kids going to school and coming out of the school. Okay, you just have this small window to observe kids and their behavior, body language, whatever. So what are the things that you would notice, something in the morning and something in the evening, which would tell you as to how or what they feel about their experience at school, or what do they in general feel about school? And that, if you could share with the school authorities, could become useful. For the moment, just tell me, if you, from these two events that you are noticing, kids going to school in the morning and kids coming out of the school in the evening, do you think there is some difference in their behavior, something which is very, very obvious?
Yeah, obviously it depends from their mood as well to their emotions that they express when they leave the school and what kind of emotions do they have. Yeah, you basically observe the actions, right? Their body language and what kind of emotions do they express while they enter
Okay,
in,
I
etc.
think you're pretty close. You said emotions and body language. So if I were to build on that further, you would say that in the morning, as if the child is walking towards the school, sometimes the pace is slower, they are more serious. In the evening, when they are coming out, there is a kind of a, there is a kind of energy. They're almost kind of coming out in a rush from the school. Okay, and there is a lot of noise, there's a lot of conversation, there is a lot of hustle bustle around. It tells you that in the morning there is some seriousness. Here it's more fun, there is more excitement, almost becoming free from something. There is the kind of feeling you get when you observe kids coming out of school. Simple observation that like that can tell you that schools are seen as a place where kids are not free, at least they don't feel they are free. Okay, and there are a lot of restrictions on their behavior. Right now, this basic fundamental truth which we find, or which I'm talking about just by the simple observation, is something which we can classify as insight. Okay, Insight can be something as simple as this, but it is powerful because it tells us something which is there and it is true for all school going kids, more or less. Also, it is something which will not change unless and until some things are changed at the school in the way it operates, in the way it engages students right now. Okay, so if you were running a school, you would certainly not want kids to be unhappy while they are at school, right? So you could think about start changing the way the classes are done, while the teaching is done, and how you could make it an interesting place. Some of the schools run by the Krishnamurti Foundation, they worked on this and they have got a wonderful, experience to offer to the students, and students really look forward to going to the school. So I hope you get the idea of insight. This is one small, and then there are some illustrations, some examples that I'll discuss through this presentation. It will give you more idea of what an insight is and how insightful marketing really works. So having discussed insight, now let me move to, what is marketing. So the thing is, after completing insights, so let us try and understand what is marketing. So generally, if you look at marketing, the perception is that marketing is something you do in order to sell your product. But that's a wrong understanding, and kind of a very limited understanding of marketing. In the comic strip before you also, you see that, the person reaches out to Dogbert, the vice president of marketing, and he, in all his marketing zest, he says, okay, describe the product in technical terms. And when the person tells him it tends to overheat, the solution in marketing is, or as understood marketing is, it's the hottest product in the marketing, and some of the parts are carcinogenic, then it makes you really appreciate life. So it's good for a comic strip, but the comic strip also portrays the reality of the limited understanding of marketing that people actually have. People believe, and in fact in a lot of businesses, first the product is developed, and once it is ready, then the need for or the requirement for a marketer is felt. If by chance you took the product and there are some customers who are interested and they buy it, then you actually don't feel the need for a marketer. Okay, but the fact of the matter is that marketing is much broader a term, and it actually implies a lot of other things. It is not the last step in the product development. In fact, marketing is the first step. And how is it a first step is something which we will discuss and you will understand during the conversation today. So marketing in reality is a process by which businesses try to satisfy needs of well-defined target markets. The well-defined is important. Target is an important term there. Please keep them in mind. And the intention is to build long-lasting relationships by creating value. If you do these things, if you satisfy needs well of your target market and you give them great value, they will not leave you and go, and there will be long-lasting customer relationships. Okay, so I will take these terms which are in bold here and I will develop our conversation on these. Okay, so look at satisfy needs. When we say satisfy needs, then what is exactly are you supposed to do as a person who's manufacturing the product or who's creating the product? The question you need to answer is, what should my product do? Do for whom? For the target market. Okay, so who is my customer and what should my product do for this customer? Next question, creating value. The question that we are answering here is, why will someone buy my product? So what we essentially are trying to do is, we are creating, when you create a product, please understand you're not creating something which is for certain features, which has certain attributes, certain colors, certain dimensions. That's just the specifics of a product. From the person who's going to buy and use it, that product is all those things, yes. But why they're buying the product is because it is a solution to the problem they face. Okay, so it is important to understand who is my customer. Is that customer going to buy my product because it does something for them, or that customer is not going to buy that product because the customer needs things which my product doesn't offer? Okay, So your customer is going to buy a product only if it gives them some kind of a value by satisfying some needs that they have. Okay. Now, value creating value is a very, very important term in marketing, because if you do not have value to offer, nobody is going to be interested in your product. And a very simple example is, if you were to buy t-shirts for yourself, if you walked into a shop and looked for a t-shirt for yourself, you would normally look at quite a few t-shirts before selecting one or two pieces of the t-shirt which you want to buy. That t-shirt may be offering you some kind of value in terms of the fabric that has been used, in terms of the color and the style that the t-shirt has, or because the price is just right, so it makes great value for money. So a customer who selected a particular t-shirt, a very simple everyday product that people use, the person has discarded so many other t-shirts and shirts in the showroom because they did not offer value in some way. Maybe the color was not right, maybe the style was not right, maybe the fabric was not right, maybe the price was not right. So when you are creating a product, please understand the customer is very, very discerning, and they want all the boxes to be ticked in order to shell out some money and buy your product. So you have to have a deep understanding of your target market, who your customer is, and what is the specific need that they want to be satisfied by your product. So please keep on asking yourself these questions. What should my product do? Who is my customer? And why will he or she buy your product when there are so many others on offer in the market? Okay. So we'll keep this conversation going. And from, extending that, the question to an answer. Okay. So what should my product do? Your product should simply, very simply, solve a problem for the customer. Look at what is the solution that your product offers to the customer. How does it make their life easy, their work easy? Some task which was giving them some problem, some headache, how is it has been taken away because they started using your product? Looking at the second question, who is my customer? It's a very obvious thing. Someone who has a problem, someone who's facing a problem. If there is a person who's facing no problem, then you really don't have a market. Because unless and until a person has a problem, the person does not feel a need for your product. And you cannot sell, it's as simple as a person who's not thirsty, you cannot make that person drink water. If a person is traveling, let us imagine there is a train which is, and there is a, compartment full of people, and this train gets stranded somewhere in the outer. There are people who are carrying their flasks or bottles of water. There are some who are not. Okay. Perhaps this was a short trip and nobody expected the train to stop somewhere like this. Only the people who do not have water are the customers for a person who comes into the compartment and is trying to sell water, because they are the people who are facing a problem. All others already have water. So market exists because of a need exists because there is a something which is missing. There is a problem which needs a solution. So if somebody does not have a problem, there is no requirement for anything. And very often, in fact, you will see some advertisement, they try to make you feel or make you realize that you're missing something. Maybe, you need a better car to look more successful. You need a certain kind of shoes to look more professional. So they're trying to make you realize that there is some problem. Okay. So you may perhaps understand those ads much better now. The third thing, why will someone buy my product? Because only and only because it solves the problem better than anyone else in the market. If your product solves a problem in a manner very similar to another existing product in the market, then the question is, why should somebody buy your product and not that product? So you'll have to create some way in which available. So look at this situation, the COVID situation, or even before COVID also. Lots of brands which Amazon sells or any e-commerce company sells, they are available in your nearby shop as well. But how are they getting the business? because they have an added value of channel, the ease and the comfort with which the product is made available at your place. So Amazon created an entire business on channel, not on a product. It's the service they are offering. And that itself is a huge business for them. So likewise, if you are, if your product is very similar to something else in the market, believe me, people will compare. Just as you compare multiple t-shirts and select one, people compare other product offerings and they will question you. They are asking for this price, why should I pay you more? So you have to convince the customer with the quality, with the features, with the ability of the product to solve your problem or their problem in a manner which is better than anyone else in the market. I hope this is understood. Now, let me, take you through an example. Gillette is a well-known brand, number one in manufacturing razors. It has got great expertise and technical know-how in manufacturing razors, has been doing it for years now. Okay. And Gillette, by default, it started in manufacturing razors for the US male. And the US male, normally they shave every day in the morning. And how do they shave is they stand in front of a sink. There is running tap water. The temperature of that water can be controlled. There is a full good, light on their face, and there is a nice mirror, and they shave in all the comfort. Okay. And this audience there is also pretty affluent, and they are looking for better grooming equipment. So over time, Gillette has come up with, so many modifications. And one of their advanced versions is right there in front of you, which is the Gillette Fusion Pro Glide. So there are multiple razors, multiple blades, and there is, some cushioning. It glides freely. All the contours of the face are handled very well by this razor. So that's the promise of a very convenient, easy, and a very nice close shave is what Gillette promises to the set of customers. And Gillette, as it expanded out to the US market, it came to India also. What Gillette did initially is it would look at the low price, razors that they were producing for the US customers, and they made that available in India as well. Now, those low priced models of US were still high price in India. Okay. So it was only the affluent male, the more aware male, more knowledgeable of foreign brands. They started buying these razors, and, they continued to. However, Gillette wanted to expand its market, and it saw that there was a huge potential in India for expanding its market. However, the kind of people who were not buying, or who constituted the majority of the remaining non-customers for Gillette, they were someone, who was using a very old-fashioned steel razor, which used a double-sided blade. So you might see that on the right-hand side corner. This is a very familiar, equipment. And the blades could be bought, which were very cheap. And the steel razor was also a sturdy thing, though it was not a very convenient thing and never gave you a very good shave. Or very often when somebody was shaving, there would be nicks, cuts, and bleeding. So it was very cumbersome, very difficult, not the ideal gadget, but a lot of Indian males were using this, not necessarily only the bottom of the pyramid, but even those who are in the middle class, lower middle class, they were all using these, even some traditional ones. So the issue was for Gillette to attract these set of customers to their, advanced razors. Now, Gillette could have easily, tried to come up with a version of the razor which was low price, which would appeal to these members, and they could just simply sit in their offices, ask the design team to come up with some ideas, and they could have brought it out into market. However, Gillette doesn't work like that. It is a number one company in male grooming, not for any other reason, but the fact that they take their job very seriously. So what Gillette did is it dispatched a team of researchers to India. Their job was to look at and observe, talk to the people who are using these traditional steel razors for getting a shave, and try and understand what are the problems that they are facing, what are their needs and requirements to come up with an ideal product. Okay, so here I will stop sharing this and I'll show you something else. So this is a video and please observe it very carefully.
You've got to go to India to really understand what the consumer's needs are. And they're absolutely right. There's 500 million Indian men still shaving with the old-fashioned double-edged razor. We needed to design a razor specifically for them. We get the privilege of being invited into the consumers' homes. They live in very small houses, often with just 2 rooms, no furniture. So we often had to sit on the floor where we're doing the interviewing. They would have to go out into the street, to the taps, to fill up a small cup of water to bring back to their kitchen. And of course, coming back, we're fully charged with enthusiasm and motivation and what we could do. So we started producing the sketches on the aeroplane.
So, okay, you saw the video and you saw, they're visiting the customer's house. So what are some of the things which come out of their, field visit? I have tried to summarize them here because we have kind of, lost a lot of time. Otherwise, I would have asked you some questions on that. So if you look at what the company found from the field visit and, observing the people shaving in their homes is that this customer could sit on a floor, normally would have a small plastic bowl full of water and has to complete the entire shaving with using only that amount of water. Okay. This person is also balancing a small handheld mirror. So technically one hand is busy and he has got only one hand to get the shave done. He shaved also in dimly lit places. Sometimes, in fact, people were trying to get the best of the sunlight, which was available by, getting the shave closer to the windows and sitting there. They also experienced, because this process was not the ideal way of getting the shave, they often experience these nicks and cuts. Also, these people, they did not shave every day. They at best shaved once or twice a week. Some of them, they managed long facial hairs, so which would get tangled and it made the job even more difficult. Besides these, which were visible, the conversations revealed that this customer was also extremely price sensitive. Okay, so now you need a solution. If your product is supposed to solve something, what is the problem that you're solving? You have to address all these issues, so that they don't get the frequent nicks and cuts. But you have to offer it all at a very low price because they are extremely price sensitive. So to put it all together in a very simplified insight, the company took away one simple thing, and that is the customer values 3 things: affordability, safety, and ease of use. Okay. Now, keeping this insight in mind, the company started working. They were, came up with different prototypes, different ideas, and, by scrapping some, by working on more, some of them and improving them, they finally came up with something which came to be known as the Gillette Guard. Maybe you have seen this in the market. If you have not, I would suggest that please just go and have a look at this product. It's a single blade system. There is a safety comb which is attached at the top, which prevents all kinds of nicks and cuts. There is a flexibility at this head. It also has this serrated, handle, which gives a very good grip. The product itself is made of light plastic, and a part which is not visible is at the end of the razor. On the other side, they have created a hang hole, so you can actually put a thread around it and use that for hanging the razor once the shave is done on a nail or any small latch which you can have in your house. That helps the razor drip dry. And that is important. It increases the longevity of the razor, okay? The life of the razor. So because of all this, this product is a great product. Please remember, they were also looking for an extremely affordable product. The price for this product by Gillette was 15 rupees. Okay, so this razor costs just 15 rupees and the refill cartridges, they come at 5 rupees. Just imagine, for a company which is manufacturing products which are very high end, to come up with this kind of a product, they need to really do their designing completely afresh. And that's exactly what they did. But they were rewarded very well. The company immediately, the market share jumped and they crossed the 50% market share in India, which was a huge thing for them. Okay. Now, to look at what is the insightful marketing and what is it that I'm trying to, help you understand. You do not develop the product in a vacuum. You start by understanding what is it that the product should do to help solve the problem that the customer is facing. And here you see that those field visits going into the customer's house, they really understood the challenges that a person faces for getting a simple shave. Okay. And they have tried to tackle the problem by incorporating changes or features in the new design, which actually address all the issues which this person faces, of light, of long facial hairs which need, or preventing cuts and cuts and nicks on the face, giving you a small thing like a hang hole which allows you to put the razor out there to dry, which was not happening earlier. And all in all, it's a very safe equipment. So if I were to ask you a question, what was the problem that was solved by the Gillette Guard? Anybody could give an answer. Please use your mic.
I think the overall shaving experience.
That's a very good answer. Who gave that answer?
This is Ashwant. Hi.
That's a wonderful answer. And very often students, they say that, they prevented the nicks and cuts. And that's a very limited understanding of the problem. They have understood the challenges in the shaving experience of the customer and addressed that by just one single product offering. Till date, this remains a great product and it has got a brand loyalty amongst the TG, okay, all the members of the TG. So when we talk about these, the three things, safety needs, the target market, and creating value, what problem did Gillette Guard solve? It solved the problem of the bad shaving experience. It solved the problem of limited light, limited amount of water, nicks and cuts. You can sit anywhere on the floor. You can be standing near a window. You would still get a perfect, but the product would still give you a great shave. So this is the problem that it solved. It understood the environment within which the consumer was using the product. The nicks and cuts are not the problem. They are the result of the environment in which the customer is using them. Okay. So the problem that product Gillette Guard solved was much more than preventing nicks and cuts. Well-defined target market, who is using it? It's the person who cannot afford, a lot of water, who cannot afford a well-lit space, and all those other things which you saw. I don't want to, overemphasize or over-repeat that, but you understand it's not about the product, it's about the customer's situation. And that you cannot understand unless and until you make that effort to take a trip into the customer's life or wherever, the problem is that you're trying to solve. It could be a workplace, it could be a company. So make that trip to the company, make a trip to the place where the person is working and try and get an insight and overall understanding of the problems, of the challenges that they face. Sometimes, gadgets which are developed in other countries and they're brought into India or other countries, they flop. They fail very badly. A very simple case is of Kellogg's cornflakes. They sell very well in the US. When they were brought into India, they failed because of a very simple reason. There people use cold milk. In India, people use hot milk. The minute you put hot milk into cornflakes, the kind that are sold in US, they become immediately soggy, and we don't like soggy food. Okay. As a result, Kellogg had to go back to the drawing board, reinforce their cereals. And now when you use the cereals which are available in India, they're very different from the ones that are sold in the US. So please understand your target market. The US is a different market. India is a different market. Even within India, if you look at the detergent powders market, there is something which is like the Rin, or a Wheel or a Nirma. And then at the other end are all these liquid detergents which come in, which are very high price. All these products are selling because the TG is different, their requirements are different, their problems are different. So for your product, when you're working on your product, it would be a good thing for you, and it would be very helpful if you could sit down and understand who is going to be the user for my product. Is this person someone in an MNC who would need it in the manufacturing process? Is it somebody who is a part of a small and medium manufacturing enterprise? Their work environments, their paying capacity, the place where the product will be housed and used are all going to be different, and therefore the challenges would be different. Okay, so if you are very happy about a product, please take it to the user, give it to them, allow them to use it for some time and take a feedback. You'll find that they'll give you a lot of feedback on what is working, what is not working, what modifications you could make to make it better. Okay, so please keep that in mind. Moving on, this is, I think we have already discussed this. The problem is not the frequent nicks and cuts, but the problem is, the operating environment for the customer. And oftentimes people fail to understand the real problem and they focus on the symptoms. It's like the doctor, you went and you said, I have a headache and I'm having a fever, and the doctor gives you a medicine for the headache and for the fever separately without understanding that these are two related things and you have something, much more serious. So your job is that of a doctor who looks at all the symptoms, connects them together to understand what is the root cause. Once you understand that root cause, that is the insight into the challenge, into the problem. And then you start developing a solution from there. So it's important to have an insight into the problem or issue. Now, insightful marketing, it solves a problem, it solves a real problem. It understands the customer, not only the challenge they face, but the world as well. If you are designing a simple thing, again, if I were to say a mobile phone, in the rural part of the country, the requirements and the needs from a mobile phone are very different from that in the urban part. Even in the urban part, some executive working, who's traveling a lot and working, his requirements are very different from a person who's living in a city and working maybe in a bank as a staff member there. Their needs are different, their worlds are different. They perhaps, somebody who's into gaming, their requirements from a mobile phone, from a tablet, from a laptop are very different from a person who's just using it for, designing for a lecture or for, taking notes, other things. So for each of these things, the needs vary, the requirements vary, hence your product should also vary. Okay. And again, please understand what your competitors are offering, because you have to do, if there are competitors, you have to do your things much better than them. So to, put it all together and in a very simple, easy to remember manner, please look out for three things. One is the context, the second is the customer, and the third is the competition. Context is, where is the problem occurring? Where is the problem faced? Okay, not what is the problem. That may be just a very insufficient explanation of the challenge. Who is the customer? What are their value systems, beliefs, superstitions, culture and tradition they follow? What are the limitations in terms of money, buying capacity and power? Or what are their aspirations? Somebody who has who's looking for a great car and looking for the best car, money is not a problem. Then they are looking for something which is so different from what is available that their aspirations do not find a offering in the market which fulfills that aspiration. Okay, so such customers will look for customized offerings from someone, and if you can offer that, then you have a product ready for such customers. The third is the competition, other players in the market. If you look at the hatchback cars available in India, there are so many different brands. So one very popular, or two very popular ones being those from Hyundai and from Maruti. Both are selling, both are doing well. Maruti does slightly better in India as compared to Hyundai, though Hyundai is certainly has been catching up over years, and it is almost at par. Why does Maruti work? It has a certain set of customers who need that assurance that in case the car breaks down, in case something happens, I have a good service network and immediate support for me. This promise, this offering, this network availability for Maruti is one of the prime reasons that Maruti does well in India. And Maruti, people who are using Maruti, they will tell you that the service from Maruti is great. Their immediate response to any request is great. So you have to differentiate yourself from others in some way. You have to do something better and ensure that you are the best in that. So something better than the competition, which matters to the customer. That's important. If you can remember these 3 C's, and you can look at how you're doing your work or your product and the development of that product, I think you'll see a huge improvement in your product design, and also the response from the market will change. Now, let me take you to another example, and that is of a store. It's a very funny name, Humpty Dumpty Supermarket, but this was, this is pretty old, and this happened in America very much after the Great Depression. So people were not, it was an economic slowdown, and people didn't have much money to spend. So they were buying only the necessary. And Sylvan Goldman, the gentleman in the picture there, he was running his own store, the Humpty Dumpty store in Oklahoma. And as any shopkeeper, he just simply had this humble, aspiration or ambition, you can say, that the customers who are coming to the shop, they should buy a little more, because a little more by each customer would mean that he would make a little more money. So how was shopping happening in those days, 1936 in Oklahoma? Shopping was predominantly done by females, and the females would come into the store. There would be these iron baskets or steel baskets kept there, and they'll pick this up and they'll go around putting things, okay? So once this basket gets full, or it becomes too heavy for the female to lift, then she will move to the cash counter. Mr. Silvan, who was trying to increase the sale, who started observing the customers very closely, and over constant observation, he realized that people, even when they needed to buy more, if their basket was full, if it was too heavy, they would stop purchasing. They would defer that remaining purchase for another trip or another occasion. So his understanding was there was a tendency to stop shopping amongst the female shoppers when the basket became too full or too heavy. Okay, this was his observation. Now he wants to increase the sale. So what he's thinking is, how can I take this load away from my customer? How can I make it easy for the customer to put more things in the basket? An obvious answer could be that you make the basket lighter and bigger in size. But at that time, plastic was still not there, and there was no way of reducing the weight of the basket. And if you increase the size with the same, the basket itself became too heavy. Okay, so it was not a proposition that would work. However, Mr. Goldman didn't give up, and he went on trying. One day in his office in the evening, as he was thinking what could be the solution, he saw this chair every day. It was there in his office, but suddenly something clicked in his mind, and he got an idea. So he just went and brought one of the baskets and put it on the seat of the chair. Okay, and he said, what if I attach wheels to the legs of the chair? So he started working on that with a friend of his, and you see this first structure of a shopping cart emerging there. It still looks like a chair which has got wheels, which is slightly longer legs with wheels attached. And the basket is just next to it. He's kept the basket on the chair. Of course, he worked on this a bit more, and made it possible to keep 2 baskets, not 1. So if somebody had a long list, they could actually buy 2 baskets full of products with the help of this contraption that he has created. And he was so happy with his idea, and he felt that people would be so excited. The females who are visiting, they would they could do shopping without getting tired. So he put these advertisements in the local newspapers saying that no more of this at your standard stores, and it's new, it's sensational, no more baskets to carry. And he was there is an interview which is available online, where he's talking, and he says that I was so sure that I have got a great product, and he had made these available at his store. So next day, after putting this, the day when all these shopping carts were supposed to be inaugurated and the store would be offering them to the customers, he said, I got dressed up very nicely, and I walked that victory walk to my store, thinking that there will be long queue of customers standing at my store wanting to use the shopping cart, which was obviously a very great product. He was surprised. There was no one at the store. Okay. And so as usual, he opened the store and went inside, and they were waiting for customers. Customers trickled in as usual, no extra traffic coming in. And they didn't pick up, they didn't even, use these shopping carts, though they were right there in front of them. What was wrong? What went amiss? And this was like, heartbreaking for Mr. Sylvan, who had actually developed, who in his understanding had developed a great product. Now, we all have been using shopping carts, and you might be wondering, why would somebody not use a shopping cart? The fact is, the customer's belief, value systems, beliefs. I told you it's very important to understand that. Customers, the male customers, very few of them would come, but they believed that this was unmanly. It made them look weak. The women felt that, it reminded them of pushing babies in prams, and they didn't like that thought at all. Likewise, the older people who were coming to the shop, they didn't want to look like, they were weak and old, and hence they needed this. So now there was a challenge again. You have a product, it's a great product, that, but there is no buyer, there is no taker in this case. There was, these things were available for free. The customer hasn't got anything to Mr. Selvan to use these. So how do you make the customer use the shopping cart? Thanks to Mr. Selvan's thinking and, his ingenuity, what he did is he hired a few models, as to say, good-looking females who were just planted in the store. And these females who were, would go around the store, pick things from the shelves, put it in the cart, and do these dummy, purchases. When human beings see others doing something, especially those that they aspire to or they look up to, they start copying the behavior. So this insight into human behavior, this understanding of human behavior, which Mr. Goldman had, helped him come out of this. He created some kind of a peer pressure for the customers. And he hired fake customers to stroll the aisles with the card, okay? And very soon others also started picking up. So genuine customers, they started using the card. And within 3 years, the cards were so popular that actually grocery stores across the US, they had to redesign the aisles and the arrangement of shelf in the stores so that people could move around conveniently with the shopping carts, not hitting each other. And till date, the space between the aisles in self-service stores is guided by the size of the shopping cart. So, you see how it was something which took off. And there's a book on his life, The Card That Changed the World, and a huge business, a $73 billion business so long back, 1955. This issue of life is in 1955. And that was the kind of business he generated by the shopping carts alone. Since then, the design of the shopping cart has been changed and reworked, and telescopic shopping carts have come in and gone. And recently, Amazon Fresh in the prices already showing on the screen. You don't have to go to the cash counter at the end of it. You just swipe your card, make your payment, and walk out with the products. The one in front of you is Caper. It is in test, last I checked, and maybe it is ready to be introduced in the market somewhere, but the pilot tests are showing good results. So from the basket on an iron chair to these, advanced AI powered shopping carts, which we see in front of us, and they're available in stores in some cities. Very soon, it's just a matter of time, we'll be having these kinds of carts available everywhere. It's a long journey that the shopping cart has made, but it has been possible because of the insight into human behavior, into the human psyche that Mr. Goldman had. The insights on which he developed his product, on which he modified and his approach, and how he strategized to convince or to make the users use the product, which if they had not used, We would still be, lugging around heavy bags and doing, making multiple trips to the shop just to get a few things. So I hope this helps you understand that having a great product is no good if your customer does not see the value of that product. If there is a barrier in their mind that prevents them from, using that product, your product, even if it's a great product, will remain unsold. Have no doubts about it at all. Customers are pretty demanding, and they can be sometimes very, very myopic. Sometimes it's your job as the producer and as the marketer of the product to actually make them realize the value of your product as well. That's very much a part of marketing. Okay, so your objective being to solve the problem. If the customer himself or herself becomes the barrier to solving that problem, you have to deal with that barrier as well. Okay. Now, the problems such as these are not only faced by people who are starting fresh businesses or developing a product for the first time. Several types of problems exist, even with companies which are MNCs, global operators, doing very well, and they could even be making mistakes. So they can come back and make corrections. It's always good to come back and make corrections, especially when the market gets crowded and there are more and more people entering the space and offering you competition. So recently, Pepsi, which is manufacturing cold drinks, and they have these 2-liter bottles. This is the shape and design of the 2-liter bottles, which is still there in the market. And anyone who has used it, and I believe all of us have used them in at some point in time, you know how difficult it is to actually pour out. You need both your hands to hold the bottle and then pour out the soft drink. It took so many years. Only in 2018, Pepsi started looking at the difficulty the customer was experiencing in handling these bottles. And they put in a team which worked on it. And just recently, I think a couple of weeks back, they introduced new modified bottles. What is the advantage of this design? It still doesn't cost the customer much. What is the benefit here is they have created a place where you can actually hold, it offers a grip to the user, and it makes the job of pouring out the soft drink much more easy. It improves the customer's experience of using the product. It does not increase the price of the product. It does not increase the plastic content, because that's also a major concern for big companies which are using PET bottles in huge quantity, in huge numbers. It could also be harmful for the environment. So they were working within all these limitations, but finally they came up with this design, and this design is doing pretty well. It means it's getting good reviews in the media, and it's only finally once it's used by the customer, we'll know. So again, if you look at this example, it's something which is obvious. Every customer has faced that problem. The company knows that size of a human hand is only so much. It's around 7 to 8 inches, and the circumference of this bottle was 13 to 14 inches. So if you are creating that kind of a product, it is cumbersome, and plus 2 liters, it's a heavy bottle. You are creating a difficulty for the customer to use your product. Are using it because everybody else is offering the same thing, and this is offering some price advantage. You are getting a lot of quantity at a lower price instead of buying multiple bottles. This could save you some money. So people see some value and they're buying it. But can you enhance the value? You can by simply making some alteration. It took them 2 years to come up with that change. Okay, research, design, looking at all the factors, cost to the environment, cost to the customer, and the aesthetics and appeal of the bottle itself. Plus, if you provide a grip, does the bottle, become more susceptible to toppling over? The balance of the bottle has to be maintained. So many things in a small change like that. But if you bring it all together, the experience to the customer becomes better. Probably you also gain some market. If this gets copied by others, of course, it will get copied in time. But you have offered your customer something better in experience. So these examples that I've shared with you, the intention was to help you understand how insights get aligned, and how even a great product may not be accepted by the market, not because your product is not good, but because the customer does not see it as valuable, because they have their own perceptions, their own thought processes. Also, as you know, look at the Gillette example, starting with the customer, getting an understanding of their environment in which they operate, getting an insight initially, that is also important. So this kind of brings me towards the end of the conversation, and I had put around 20 to 25 minutes, I had put it aside for questions that you may have. Please, you can take the mic, or you can, I hope we are still there, the connection is still there.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes, ma'am.
So I'm very
The
happy to
connection
take
was
questions. Yeah.
sure.
So I hope I have been able to, offer you something which gives you an understanding of how you can do your marketing better. And that marketing needs to be a part of your process from the very beginning, not at the end. It doesn't happen at the end. And I'm very happy to take questions if you have.
Sure. Thank you, ma'am. So participants, please feel free to ask questions to Dr. Richa. So ma'am, if you don't mind, I would like to start off.
Yeah, sure.
So I know over the examples that you've shown with Gillette and then with Mr. Sylvan's example at the grocery store, they've been more of, more of a business to customer sort of examples. Do you,
Okay.
if you could, give me some more, if you could translate insightful marketing when it comes to B2B, where, we're approaching like a larger organization to sell a product or something. Is there something that you like to add on to that?
Kalyani, it's a good question. Essentially, if you look at marketing, marketing remains the same. Means we still have to look at insights. We still have to develop a product which addresses the problems that the customers may be facing. Of course, your customer and becomes very different when it's a B2B. So they are using, maybe they are buying a part from you, which is being used in manufacturing, whatever they are. So their demands will be, they'll be buying in, huge quantities. And but in case you are making some technological equipment or some technology platform that you're offering, so it affects the entire working. How do you use insight? How do you get insights? How you design and approach marketing for that? It doesn't change much. You still again have to look at what are the challenges. Instead of developing your product and taking it to a B2B, buyer, it would be good to look at what kind of B2B, or industrial buyers are you looking at. Talk to them, understand the problems from their side. If possible, take a trip down to their place where they are planning to install your machinery, how the team that is going to use your app or technology platform. Get their inputs, get them involved, because you'll learn a lot of things. It could be as simple as the wording, the complexity, the of some technical terms that are being used. Small things can make a huge difference for customers. Okay, some very simple thing. A lot of people took a long time to switch over to smartphones. Smartphones are so easy to use, but in their mind, smartphones are more technically evolved, hence they will be more complex. So they could not make that switch and they delayed it. Once they move, they realize it's easy. Same thing can happen even in a B2B context. You need to understand also, when you interact with B2B customers, their sensitivity to price, because a small amount, small variation in price, a small reduction in price can mean a lot, especially if your product is that which will be bought in huge quantities. So understand that sometimes it is important in B2B to understand all features are not equally important to the person who's buying it. You may have put emphasis on certain features which from the the purchaser's point of view or the company's point of view, they're not that important. So you need that input in order to invest your time and energy in focusing on the right features, the right aspects of the product which are valuable to the buyer, which the B2B the business customer that you're dealing with. Because otherwise you are trying to come up with an ideal product which performs great in every aspect. Perhaps the customer does not even need that. And by doing that, you are inflating your cost. In fact, if you could, manage some of the features and keep them very simple at the level which the customer is expecting, you might actually reduce your cost, which gives you an advantage in the market. So the process is the same. Means you have to interact with your customer. Insights will come only through that. They cannot come by sitting in your, workshop, developing a product, talking to your team alone. Even if there are members, like a lot of startups, they work in teams. Somebody has worked in a company, has faced a problem, has some information, and very often that itself is the information within which we operate. We feel that, we are getting inputs. Somebody here has the experience. But that person's experience is his individual experience. Your customer's experience may be slightly different. Maybe your friend or the member on the team has a better technical understanding than the people that you will deal with when you're trying to sell the product. And it's important to know that.
Sure.
So I hope I've answered your question.
Yes. So there is a question that has come up in the chat. It's from Susindran, who has asked, are there any good books on this that you recommend?
In terms of insightful marketing, there are no books, because the marketing itself, we have a lot of textbooks, but insightful marketing are not there. And this is something which has kind of developed because I've been able to put this together because of my interest in marketing as well as design thinking. So when you look at the presentation today, my session with you, insight is something which is very much used in design thinking, okay, for designing a product, for designing a policy, whatever you're trying to design. And from there, I do design thinking as well. From there, I realize that we do the same thing in marketing. We always say that start with the customer. In fact, marketing is customer-centric marketing. And when you talk about the customer, limited understanding could be, customers' need. And so if I am, let us say, selling soft drinks, I'm just giving some kind of, the variation in the strength of the fizz or the soda, so as to say, in the drink. Maybe not. Maybe somebody is consuming soda because it looks, the soft drinks because it looks stylish, because it looks fashionable, maybe because it's a good thing to have as a break. It kind of gives you, if you are doing something, it's good to take a break and then go back again. Maybe somebody is using it because they have got a bad, gastric problem. I've heard people consume it because, they were having a bad stomach related issue. So there are so many different ways things can be used. So it's good to always, and that's where the insight and the marketing come together, So from design thinking, I take this understanding of insight and my understanding and experience of marketing, I bring them together. It makes a lot of sense. So to answer your question, are there books? No, but you may find it useful to look up some videos and some material on design thinking. Also, I would suggest that please look up at small data. There's a lot of popularity and there's a lot of awareness about big data, and people normally do not know small data so much. Small data is essentially small, but it is very rich data in the sense that in big data, you are having, database of millions of customers if it's a big company. But in small data, you may be talking to a handful of customers, but you're doing a very exhaustive, in-depth conversation. You're also perhaps, doing, looking at the day-to-day. BBC at one time was trying to understand what are the media habits of the people, okay? So therefore, their team of researchers followed consumers into their houses, from the morning to night. What are the things they interact with? And they realize that people interact with multiple screens sometimes. So they may be interacting with television while working on, so television is on, the laptop is on, and the mobile is also on the side. So there are 3 screens that they are interacting with, and each of the screens is giving them some different input. So while on the laptop you are working, on the mobile you're connecting with friends, on the television you are watching maybe a movie or catching up some news. So people have this habit of consuming. This something became, known to them because of the depth of their investigation or research that they did. So small data is about following perhaps a few handful of target market members, but getting very in-depth understanding of how do they do things, how do they consume things, what are their habits, are these habits common between these sets of people, and what are those things that can be changed, what are those things that cannot be changed. If there are certain things that cannot be changed, then you have to build your product around it. You cannot expect the customer to change their behavior because you designed a product. That's very often a mistake that companies make. I have got a great product, the customer will like it. If your product is difficult to use, the customer will not use it. Vacuum cleaners, I just to give you an example. Vacuum cleaners, a lot of Indian families have got those Eureka Force vacuum cleaners at home. They bought it with the intention to use it, but it remains unused. And as a result, the company does not get the second demand for the product. So do a depth study, understand, it would be good to go and understand why will people use or not use certain things. What are their habits? What
Sure.
kind of things are they comfortable with?
So
Yeah,
yes.
Yeah, one question, ma'am. So this is Prasad from Bbox Studios. So in generally in B2B or service marketing, we may able to reach out to very few contacts in that company.
Right.
Maybe specific marketing team or sales team or somebody on the decision making chain.
Yes.
But when we are creating a solution for them as well, that solution is going to be used by the end consumer or dealer or somebody else. We may not get an
Right.
access to that end consumer. So how to,
Yet
what are the
that's
best methods
always
to,
Mm-hmm.
what are the best
That's a
methods
huge
to
challenge
get
in
that
B2B.
end consumer contact and do the field research?
See, it's a huge challenge, and it's a great question. Again, I would say from B2B context, it would be good, instead of approaching your customer with, I have got a product and I want to sell this product to you. Instead of that, we are trying to develop a solution to this problem. We have heard that people, face these kinds of, the companies face this kind of problem when trying to solve some issue. Okay. So we are trying to understand this problem in depth and develop a customized solution. So if you are facing a problem, we would like to develop a product which addresses your requirements better. The minute you take this approach, I think a lot more doors will open up for you. Generally, companies, what they do is, I have got a product, it sells I'm coming here to sell this product to you. If you go as a person who's trying to understand and develop a solution for them, I'm sure they'll be more receptive to you.
Yeah. Okay.
Mr. Prasad, I hope,
Yes, I understand that. But again, that's again earlier point you were mentioning. That is only one person's point of view. So when we are getting that inputs, right, that is only one person's, not the end consumer.
In a B2B context, see, actually in B2B, it's not one company. You will be talking to the person who will actually, let us say you are designing a machine. Okay. That machine would be used by somebody. So there are workers there. There is a person who is on the engineering side who will have some inputs on that. Quality team may have some concerns about how we can improve the quality of what we are, producing. There might be some kind of problems when they use the machine. It impacts the quality of what they are producing. So you will actually talk to a set of people within that organization, and you will get inputs from each one of them, which then you bring to your own drawing board for designing and developing the product.
Okay.
If you talk to the buying center members or people who control the purchase decisions, then you will not get anywhere except, price negotiations.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, understood. Yeah. Thank you, ma'am.
And that's normally what happens. It's mostly about price negotiations, because the people that they have the power only to do that.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
I hope, it helps you in some way.
Yes, thank you, Prasad, for asking the question. Is there any more questions? So, ma'am, I want to come back and ask another question. So, in your presentation, I remember you mentioning there were 3 key things. One was context, one was customers, and one was competition. Am I right? Right. I'm hoping I got that right.
Yes.
So, in your experience working with startups, I know 3 of these factors are, equally important, but where have you seen startups struggle the most? Is it in understanding the context or customers or competition?
I think for startups, see, they normally do not look at competition at all. Means they are operating in a very isolated environment. So that factor doesn't strike them as important at all till much later. And especially that competition becomes more important when they start interacting, trying to sell the product. Okay. So initially it's the context and the customer, and even there, I think the startups context is also not understood. They don't actually focus on that at all. Most of these startups, they are focused on the product, what they know and what they want to develop.
Right.
Customer, they look at teaching the customer how to use the product. Means, so if this is the product, this is how you use it. So they will probably think of coming up with a manual inside, a step-by-step illustrated process, how to use it, how to maintain it. Beyond that, they don't. So I would say each one of them is a stumbling block, because not because they feel it's a stumbling block, but it's a stumbling block because they don't even realize that it needs to be addressed. Means you need to talk to customers while developing a product, even before developing a product. That's an awareness which I have not seen among startups. They are always starting from, I want to create this, I want to make this. And that is not bad. But the thing is, you could probably come up with a more useful product by involving the users, at least the ones that you are thinking of selling your product to. So if you already know that, this is where I want to sell my product, it's a good thing to go and talk to them and just talk about a rough idea. This is the kind of thing we are trying to do. Do you think it will solve your problem? And very often these people will say yes, but they may not purchase it later. So it's always good to keep them involved, show them some rough prototype, ask them to use it, just cutouts and cardboard, show them how it works, and take their inputs there. So I think if you start with the customer, a conversation with the customer, you will understand the context as well. You'll start appreciating the context, which without talking to the customer, you will never even realize is important, or it plays an important role. Okay. And the third is something, when you talk to the customer, you appreciate the context is true, but you also get to know what are the things they are doing currently, what are the products they are currently using to fulfill the same need. So you get an understanding of the competition, not just the brand wise competition, but any kind of, like I said, for Cafe Coffee Day, a park bench is a competition, because Cafe Coffee Day says that we are a place where you want to hang out with friends. So if friends decide to hang out at a park bench, then they are taking away business for Cafe Coffee Day. So if somebody is having their own homegrown solution to the problem that you are trying to tackle with your product, then that solution is your competition.
Thank you. Got it. So are there any more questions? I think we're sort of almost closing to 6 here. So I'd like to conclude the session if there aren't any more questions. Yes, so thank you, Dr. Richa. I know it has been a little earlier time there, and thank you for taking time to speak to our startups and bring in so many examples, such a contextual explanation of how insightful marketing can be. So thank you once again. We'll be reaching out to you on, on how we can further work around with startups, and, as a workshop or something is relevant. So thank you, ma'am, for your time and spending it with us. And participants, thank you for staying in this long. We apologize for the small glitch in between where you had to wait, but you stayed through the talk despite that, so which gives a clear indication of how valuable the talk was. So thank you. We'll be sharing a feedback form with all of you. Request you to please fill that in and send it to us. Okay, thank you. Stay safe, everyone.
Thank you, Kalyani. Thank you,
Thank
Kalyani.
you.
And I'm so,
Thank you.
so sorry for that 20-minute thing,
No worries.
which was missed in between.
Yeah.
And as a result, I
Actually, a startup stayed, ma'am. So,
Yes, they stayed throughout. So,
Yeah.
And I was explaining and
Yeah.
putting
So
in the air.
thanks to them, and thank
Yes.
you very much. Thank you very
Thank
much
you.
for, for coming in so early, and yeah.
No worries.
Thank you,
I enjoyed
Thank you,
your
ma'am.
talk.
Thank you.
And I just hope everybody benefited. Thanks for your patient hearing and your attendance to the conversation, the entire 2 hours. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Bye.
Yeah.
Thanks, Kalyani.
Yeah.
Bye-bye.